All right, so in the last lesson, we went in depth in setting up the views for our app. We set up our buttons and started configuring how our end users are going to actually interact with our app. So really how they're interacting with our spreadsheet, which is pretty cool because most of them will never even realize that they're just interacting with a spreadsheet. So in this lesson, we'll quickly go over format rules. There's actually quite a bit that you can do with format rules. And again, we'll come back to this section as we go along creating our app. But we'll go over some examples of how you can use this feature. And hopefully, as we continue on and creating our app, you'll be thinking about how to use this feature to format it. And as a side note with that, don't feel like you need to follow me step by step in everything that we do. If you think of another way that you'd like to format your app or features you'd like to add in, that's one of the best ways to learn is really by taking your own ideas and making them a reality. So I would recommend doing that as we go along. All right, so let's jump in. Okay, so let's go ahead and head over to format rules. Okay, and in most of the sections, we'll actually have this link up at the top right here. It goes to a support article defining how this feature works. This is really a great asset as you go along, just because AppSheet has so many options. It's hard to remember what all of them do and how they work. So feel free to click on this link and give it a read. And like I said, this is going to be in most of the sections, if not all of the sections we'll be working in. So let's actually go and click on that real quick. Okay, perfect. And so you'll see it just brings you to an article for using format rules. And like I said, that will really go in depth on everything that you can do with this feature. So I definitely would recommend as we're going through this, just because we're going to go through a lot in AppSheet, but we're not going to cover everything. So this would be a really good resource just to be able to get a little bit more information that we might not cover here. So I would definitely recommend reading through that. All right. So let's head back to format rules. Okay, and so we can just click on this plus button here to add a new format rule. Sometimes AppSheet will actually give you a suggestion of a way to use a feature. So if that looks like it's something that you're wanting to do, you can just click there instead. Just kind of like these examples here, like we could change the font color of work orders, add icon formatting. So like I said, if that sounds like something that you might want to do, you can just click that and it'll already give you a pre-filled out formatting rule that you can just edit. But for now, we'll go and just click on add new format rule. Okay, so you'll see this is pretty similar to views. So the rule name, the difference here is this rule name is not user facing. It's not like a view name that the client will see. So this one you can just name something that's really descriptive and makes sense for what that format rule is. All right, so the first format rule we'll be making is actually going back to our map view that we created. So I mentioned that we can change the color of the pins depending on what the address is. So we'll actually go ahead and do that now. So I'm actually just going to pull up the map again. Okay, so right now the pin is just a regular round circle, and that pulls up the corresponding work order that's actually in our spreadsheet. So actually, if we go up to our spreadsheet, which again is just at sheets.google.com, as long as you're logged in with the same email address that you signed up for your AppSheet account with. All right, and we'll just go into our HVAC work orders sheet. Okay, and so it's this one here. So you can see that this work order right here, so it's actually signified by this dot on the map right here because we have an address filled out, which is just 1 right now. So, but we can see we have a pin next to the address. If we click on it, it'll actually pull up the map view again. And like I said, this is all just this information right here. So everything underneath the column titles is actually a field in our work order. So there's our address 1, name 1. And there it is. So this is what the user is seeing, but really it's just a spreadsheet. So let's go and go back to our map. So right now in our app, we only have the one address field, which is for the location where the work order is being performed. But our client may want to add another sheet in the spreadsheet, maybe of potential customers for the sales team to follow up with, or even something that's been used by clients in the past is having another sheet with a list of approved gas stations for the employees to use when they're using a company car. So they could have a sheet that just has the addresses of the gas stations, and then you'd have the pins actually show up on this map view with all those gas stations. And so we would want the pins to actually be differentiated so they can actually tell what they're for. So if this pin here is for the job location, and then you have the same pin for a gas station, it's going to be really confusing and the map's going to fill up really fast and it's just not going to be a good user experience. So we want to have a different pin for the job location than we do for gas stations or even for potential customers for the sales team. We want these to look different. So that's where formatting rules really come in handy. And this is just one example of what you can do with format rules. Okay, so let's go and give it a rule name. And like I said, we really want this to be descriptive. So this one, I'll go ahead and just name, let's see. Okay, so work order, job, location, map formatting. Like I said, it's just super descriptive. That way, when I come back to it, I'll know what it's for if I ever need to edit it, or if a member on my team needs to come in here, it'll be really easy for them to tell what this rule is accomplishing. So this one, you just want to have really descriptive, and like I said, it's not user facing. Okay, and then for this data, just simply, you just want to make sure that you have the right table selected. So this one, we're changing the address field in our work orders sheet. If we go back to that, we're just changing this address field to be formatted the way that we want. So we just want to make sure that the spreadsheet that we're using, the sheet that we're using, is the right one. So right here, so work orders, and this one is we're getting from data and tables. So right here, so this is our work orders table, which is just our work orders sheet. So if we had another one for gas stations, we would just need to add a new table for that sheet so we could edit that. All right, and like I said, don't worry, we'll go over that in a lot more detail in the tables section. But the main thing is you just want to make sure that for this data that you're selected on the right table. And for this one, we're changing the address in our work orders sheet. Okay, so if this condition is true, this one uses expressions, which we can see by this Flask icon. I mentioned in a previous lesson that expressions, they're just like Excel formulas or Google functions. They can get a little complicated, so we're actually going to go over that in its own lesson, the expressions builder lesson, where I'll explain a lot of the expressions that are available, how those work. For this example, we actually don't need a condition for formatting because we want it to always be formatted how we're about to set it. If we set a condition, our formatting would only take effect once that condition is met. For example, if I want any dollar amount to be black, if it's equal to or greater than 0, but any dollar amount that's less than 0 to be red, I could do that here. And that formatting will actually take effect as the user enters a positive or negative dollar amount. But I'll cover how to do that soon, like I said, in that expression builder lesson. Expressions, they're not required to build an app with AppSheet, but they can be really useful. So that lesson is something to look forward to. All right, so we'll move on to the format these columns and actions setting. We're wanting to format any pins on the map, which is just displaying graphically any address added to an address field in our app. So in our case right now, we only have the one address column in our work order, so we'll select that column. But if we wanted to format multiple columns, we could do that by holding Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and select multiple columns. So we'll just select the address column here. Like I said, if you want to select multiple, you just hold Command or Control and select whichever ones you want. So, but we just have the one address column. Okay, so next we can select what icon we want to use for the pin on our map. This icon will actually also show in the deck, table, and the slideshow views. So either in this view here, if you have the address showing in this view, this icon will actually also show along with it. So it's just really good for differentiating what that address is. So especially, like I said, if you're using multiple sources of data for your map, this would be a really good thing to do here. Okay, so for example, this one, we want to have it signified that it's a job location. So we could select something either, like this briefcase, or, you just go through and find something that would signify a job location. So this wrench could be a good option, just really showing that that is a job location. So if we click on the deck view here, so now our slideshow view, we can see right now that next to this address, we have the wrench. So it's really clear that this address is for a job location. But I might actually use that briefcase. Let's see. Perfect. So yeah, that looks a little bit better. Actually, kind of looks like a toolbox. So that's perfect. Okay, so now we can actually choose the highlight color. This will actually change the color of our pin on our map, as well as any views that reference that address. So like the deck or slideshow views here, as well as the map view. Let's go and go back over to the map real quick. Okay, and so we'll actually need a save to update this. Okay, perfect. So there we go. So now you can see that pin actually now has the little briefcase or toolbox icon right here. So that's perfect. So now it's really easy on the map to actually see what this pin is for. All right, so let's go back into our format rules. All right, and we'll just click on our work order job location map formatting, or whatever you've named that. Okay, perfect. So now we can go and change that highlight color, so we can actually change what color this pin is on the map as well. Okay, perfect. So it's going to change it here in the slideshow view. Like I said, if we had it displayed on the deck, if we had the address displayed right here, which we can do and we'll go over later, it would actually be red here as well. And on our map, it's actually changed. So this is really perfect because if you have all blue icons everywhere, even if there were a different icon here, if they were all the same color, it would still be hard to differentiate them. But you can actually change that color and make it really easy to differentiate. Okay, perfect. So there we go. So then text color, it's similar, but it's actually going to change the text in our deck or slideshow view. So if we go back to our deck view or table, however you have it set up, and if we go into this data, it pulls up our slideshow view. So right now the icon color is changed, but the text is still black. So if we change the text color, there we go. So it's going to change all the text for that column. It's not going to change the title color, but just the text that's been entered. So this address, obviously, it would be more than just one. It would be an entire address, and that text would be a different color. I wouldn't recommend doing it for address. We actually will use that formatting for a different example, but address, I would just keep the same and just change the icon and the icon color. But also we could change the text size, the style, things like that if we wanted to, just to differentiate that even more. But like I said, for the address, I would just keep that as it is. Okay, so we'll go and just save our changes. Okay, so now we have our formatting for our pins. So we'll come back to format rules and use some conditional formatting later on in the course. But now hopefully you can see how formatting rules can really set certain data apart. And this is really what's gonna make this app even more useful and beneficial for our clients. The easier that we can make this for them, the better. So if there's systems and there's things that their employees are doing, like if they just have a paper sheet with all the gas stations that they go to, or they're having to go to a different app to find the gas stations that they need, and then they're going to another system or app, or they're using paper for their work orders, and then they're going to another system for actually invoicing and payments, all that. It's just too much. It takes way too long, and they're really losing a ton of money, and their employees are getting stressed out using all these things. And so if we can put it all into one easy to use app for them, the value is going to be huge. So for them to pay however much you're charging for the app, it's really going to be a no-brainer for them, especially if you can show them how much easier this is going to make their life. So everything we're doing in this app is just trying to make our clients' job easier. So as we're going along, if there's something that you can see, like, hey, I think this would really help my client or the industry that I'm thinking on focusing on, by all means, go ahead and add that in. And like I said, that's really where you start to learn the most, is just by taking ideas and implementing them. Okay, so in the next lesson, we'll go ahead and finish out the UX section with brand, localize, and options, and that'll be it for UX. All right, so we're so close to having this app up and running. You guys are doing awesome, and we'll see you in the next lesson.